first thing is be aware of how your hand is going to move. I've got my hand here. All I need to do is put it onto here. And so what I did was just put it on its own layer, and I erased away the white background. And then I can, make sure I got my correct layer selected. Then I can move it around and touch it wherever it needs to be. Make sure it is tall enough so that you're not cropping off your hand. So it should probably be about this size at least to move around. Cool. How do we animate our hand? Remember, whenever you set this up, you need to create a video timeline to be able to do what it needs. So let's say I wanted my hand to go over and click on this button. What's the first problem that I have? It's underneath it. So obviously your hand needs to be on the very top layer of whatever you're working on. Let's go ahead and quickly animate this. I'll shrink it down so we can see what we're working with. Another thing to consider is make sure you can break everything up into different group members doing different animations. Don't make one big file, break it up, and then edit yours together. Okay, so let's say this was my starting point. Here's my hand layer. Open it up, and all we're really changing is the position of it. I don't have to change the size, so we won't convert it. Starting point, put my playhead here, turn on position. Within 2 seconds, I want it to be right here. So let's play that. 1, 2. Was that slow to y'all or fast?
Kind of slow.
It was pretty slow. One kind of major complaint that I get with these is the animation moves a little bit slow. Feel free to speed it up a bit. The easiest thing to speed it up, just change your position of this. Click and drag it. Now it's covering the same distance in 1 second. A lot better. Covering the same distance in half of a second. Much better. Cool. All I'm doing is changing the starting and stopping point of that. We'll set it to there. If I click on it, now remember one of the things I'm looking for is indicate somehow that a click is happening. What people have done before is have some sort of icon, red button, something happen to indicate that it's being clicked. It's probably going to be a lot to actually animate that one little finger moving, so I'm going to keep that exactly the same. What I would do is I'm just going to grab my ellipse tool, change my fill color to like red or orange or blue. We'll do red so it can show up, and then make just a little icon. Red icon. Let's change it to a harder red. There we go. Skin tone red. And we'll put it underneath here. So what it's going to do, it's going to move over. It's going to stop right there. Set my red thing to be right there, and we'll have it show up for maybe half of a second. So it'll look like this. Actually, I need to move that over so that it's right there. So here's so far what it looks like. Click, and it's done. You can have it fade in, you can have it, I don't know, get larger or ripple in or something like that, but that's all that it had to do. You know that I clicked on it. The second thing is, how do you interact with what's on the screen? Let's say I don't want it to just click, but I want to click and drag onto there. I've got this green rectangle on its own layer. So in this case, whenever I move, my hand needs to go here and it needs to swipe down. So I'm going to animate my hand first. It'll go from here, it'll click, maybe I'll set up another keyframe. By the way, if I need to add a keyframe by itself, at the very end here, here's keyframe, or this area here, keyframes. Whoop. Oh no, oh. Hang on a second, position. On the rectangle?
Yeah.
I've just asked myself my own question, how to add a keyframe without needing. I'll get back to you on that. But let's say I needed to move my, my hand down just a little bit. From here, I'm going to move it just, oops, not that one, my hand. Position will move down. Now let's move it a little bit further. Here, and it'll move all the way down to here. So let's animate it. Go up, click, then move down. Of course, it's moving just a little bit with this one. Click, and then move down. Okay. From here, now I need to animate this to move with it. Set your playhead. This is the starting position. I'm going to choose my rectangle layer, which is this one. And of course, I need to animate its position as well. So from here to here, it's going to move along with it to right there. So now, since they're both animated, this is what it will look like. Click, and then move down. Pretty cool? If you've ever scrolled something in an iPad, sometimes you know when you click and you drag away, it has that, that inertia, that momentum as it moves too. So another thing I can add, instead of it clicking and dragging, is if I moved from here, let's add a little bit extra motion from this one. Say move it a little bit more, and then this keeps on moving down a bit. So let's see what that would look like. Click, drag down, and it keeps moving. So it looks like there's more to it. That's the essence of moving things around. Let's get more complicated. I'm going to undo everything that I've done. Let's get rid of my keyframes. Sorry about the keyframe question. Let's say I've got actual news items. In this case, they've put each of the news items one on top of each other. And what I want to do is I want to be able to scroll through and only see one news item at a time. So one thing I need to do is I need to be able to mask off different areas. I want to go up and click on it and then scroll down and see the different things. What's one way I can mask things? What are the two different ways we've learned how to mask? Do y'all remember?
Clipping.
Clipping mask is one, and? What was the other one? Layer mask, thank you. Layer mask is the second one to use. What we're going to use is a clipping mask. In our case, I'm going to go up here. I want it to click on that and then scroll down to see the rest of it. Check out how my layers are set up. I've got my news items on one area, and I've got my green rectangle on the other. To turn on the clipping mask, hold down your Option, and it does this. What does a clipping mask do? What does it look like now?
It's just a little three rectangles at the top, or whatever the green thing is selected on.
Yeah, sort of, yes, exactly. Whatever there's pixels here, it'll only show these pixels. So this is what it looks like. So I can actually click on this layer and move things around, and it will stay inside of that layer. Pretty cool? Y'all figure out what I'm doing now? So now, if I wanted to animate that, I'm going to keep my green layer the same. I'm going to select my news layer and animate that layer. In this case, it's layer 14. So it's going to go up, click. So from right here, when my finger starts to move down, I want to change the position of it. And we'll let it move down to right about there when it stops. Click on this layer, move down, we'll say stop right there. So here's what it looks like. Click, and then move down to see the rest of my stuff. So if I'm animating an iPad application and I want things to stay inside of my frame, first of all, I may need to have everything clipped to inside of this area. Let's pull up some of the other examples and see how they set theirs up. So for this one, do you see how they selected through that? We'll go quickly. If they scrolled up, come on, scroll up. Do you figure out how they did that? They made one frame to fit inside of here and had everything else clipped inside of that. To scroll left to right through here, they made one clipping mask for that. Let's try another one. Not that one. Scroll through. For this one, they're going to click on Campus News. Campus News is masked off. And inside of there is another mask where they can click and drag through from that one. And then scroll down with this. Inside of all of this is another frame as well. The first thing you've got to figure out is how you want everything to be set up. So what I want you to practice on or work with your groups today is to talk about the actual design of it. Once you know the design, then you figure out how to animate it, where clipping mask should be, where everything should be. Question?
Yeah, so here they've got basically a panel
Uh-huh.
of say like 3 by 3,
Uh-huh.
and they're scrolling all of it up and then like one row sideways.
Yep.
Would that be one big shape and they're cutting pieces out and moving it? Or would each of those individual pieces be separate and they're moving them all together?
Each one of these is kind of how I got it set up. So this would be, all of these news items would be one item, one layer. Think of it that way, okay? So here's one layer, here's one layer. Out inside of that, to go left to right, is one clipping block, I guess you could say.
So they'd be moving multiple layers.
Be moving multiple layers, yes. You'll have a lot of layers to be moving around. Just be aware of what you need to be clipped off. Tell you what, let's open this one up. Actually, let's see how they had it set up. Now, they also used, I believe, some layer masking to do some of the other things. But they used, yeah. So in this case, they do have the buttons were layer masked off. Here's their groups. And where's the clipping mask? Oh, did they not do it? There it is. Okay, perfect. Here's exactly what you're talking about. All of these, here's every news item that they have. You can kind of get an idea. All being clipped to that one little area inside of that area. So when they scroll, they had to just move all of these layers at once to do that. And you can select multiple layers and set the animation for each one as necessary. Good question. Other questions? That's how I would set up the animation for moving things around. Determine how you want it to look, determine how you want to interact with it. The last thing you should do is be setting up the animation to make it function and work well from there. Break up each individual part to different group members.